So Tom, I have a lot of like gear that I like to camera gear that I like.
This is the second time you've had this reference now. That's it.
That I like to try out, and one of the things I've gone through so many of is microphones.
Yeah.
Because I can't get the balance right between good quality and actually it being sort of unobtrusive and that kind of thing. And one of the things that last year like changed how I use my microphones is those mic mag.
Yes, the coloured magnets that came out that you can disguise.
Exactly. And I think the original use that our guest today made them for was for TXs, for the TX650s, and it kind of comes with a little attachment that you can put on your TX650, and then the idea is it's a magnet so that you don't have to have it just hanging off like a little vape.
Yeah, I think again, if you're a photographer and aren't familiar with kind of like the makes and models of microphones, that you've probably had to Photoshop something which looks like a vape out of your groom's pocket over the time because a videographer has put one in there. So to have this where you can hide the microphone under the clothing and then a coloured magnet which sits on top of the same colour of the fabric it's been a game changer for me, I think, not having to edit things that look like vapes out of groom's pockets.
And it's been really nice. I used to use DJIs with the magnets, and the magnets on those started going rusty and funny, and then everyone's moved over to those Hollyland ones, but they come with branded magnets which you don't want to see. The new DJI mics, the 2 and the 3, I think have come with like these really heavily DJI branded ones.
They're still quite big microphones though, aren't they? We can tell why influencers hold them in their hands and stuff because they're still really obvious.
So having ones that I match the colour of like the bridesmaid dresses, that has been the single like thing that we walk around with gimbals and cameras and whatnot. But when I say I've got a magnet that matches your bridesmaid dresses, that's the bit that people go, oh wow, that's cool. So that's a little bit of an introduction to our guest today, who is Steve Ringrose from Blue Ridge Films.
Say hello, Steve.
Say hi, Steve.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Big fan of the podcast.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So for those who don't know you, give us a little introduction to yourself.
So I'm Steve. My company is Blue Ridge Films, and that's a company. This is myself and my business partner Tim. And we've been doing it since like 2013. I think was our first wedding. So like nearly shooting weddings for nearly like 13 years. It's probably like a 50-50 split in terms of shooting weddings and also doing commercial work as well. So nice. That's kind of a little intro to me.
So do you always shoot weddings together, you and Tim, or are you working on weddings independently, just under the same umbrella, or?
Primarily together. I've been a bit more flexible in the past like year or two actually. I think as like the cost of living has crept in, and I feel like people's budgets have been a bit sort of more constrained. I've been more flexible in terms of like if couples are like, is there anything you do on price? Depending on what their wedding setup is. Usually if it's mostly in one place, I'll say I can do it solo. So I think last year we did like something like 23 weddings, and I think I did maybe 8 or 9 solo. Okay. But prior to that, I'd never done a wedding solo, so it was like that was a whole experience of like almost like relearning how to shoot a wedding, having just relied on just working as a 2 for years and years and years. But still, the default offering is a 2. That's the way I prefer. But I definitely, depending on what the wedding setup is, I'm more flexible, and I will be happy and willing to do it solo if the couple want.
It's so much less mental headspace working with 2 people on a wedding day. It might be different for photography, I'm not really sure, but for video, just having that like leeway to have one person miking up or setting up tripods or whatever it is, and not missing anything during the couple shoot. I'm an advocate for having 2 videographers. So like you, I do a few on my own every year, but I'd mainly try and push our middle package because it's got 2 videographers, because I'm like, it's so worth it for them, I think, but it's also just worth it for me as well. And now if I go and do 100%. One on my own, because they're a bit more rare, it does feel like, I've got to do all this myself now.
No, I honestly do wonder how it happens, because obviously I don't offer seconds. I am photo and only shoot solo and prefer it that way. But in the odd times that I've worked with videographers and they are by themselves, even, let's say, from that aspect of how you would physically manage that, like even if you've not got 2 shooters on the day, but someone just helping you with that, putting up tripods, moving lights, miking up people, there is a lot of work, isn't it, to kind of do all of that like logistical stuff as well as then be creative with the camera.
It is,
so it does amaze me how that
it's
happen.
hard to be in the moment when you feel rushed off your feet, isn't it? Especially with multiple location ones.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I always say that it's not to couples like selfishly, like, having a second shooter for me isn't like, it's, yeah, obviously the couple get extra coverage, and then, you know, they get like 2 like dedicated controlled angles for, say, like the ceremony, so you can make sure like the groom's reactions captured and stuff like that. But for me, it's my stress levels, and I think like you just don't, there's a level of compromise that when I've done weddings solo, I always feel like I'm compromising on somewhere, because I'm so used to having that second. I'm like, okay, I need to go do this now, but that means I can't do this, or vice versa, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's stress levels, and as a 2, I feel like, well, obviously you can never guarantee to like capture every single thing, but I do feel like the couples are going to get the absolute best out of us, and we're almost going to guarantee to get, you know, really good coverage and like just such a huge variety of stuff. Whereas as solo, there's definitely been times where I'm like, I have had to make a choice between getting something and missing something. So
yeah, it feels like less risk, more like mental headspace, and being able to be creative. I always say to couples, like, if you pick one person, you'll get enough of everything to fill that 6-minute film that one person needs. But if you pick 2 people, you get much more of certain parts of the day, because they involve much, like during reception drinks, you're then filming reception drinks, you're packing up from the ceremony, you are filming couple shots, maybe bridesmaid shots, going to the dinner room and filming that. And okay, like for photographers, maybe you just walk in there and take some shots and walk out.
Oh yeah, I could do a dinner room in less than 5 minutes.
But maybe some of us might want to set up a gimbal and get some wide shots, and then you've got to come back on, put the 85 on the monopod and get some close shots, or whatever it is that your process is every one of those transitions between those different parts takes time. So you're going to get more of it. And because of that, sometimes it just leads to more creativity, doesn't it? Like, I've got time to do some of this now, I might as well give it a go. Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly that. So, yeah, it is. It's not something. It's not like you. It's not something I would encourage. The default is always 2, but there's definitely times, even as a 2, where if we're a wedding and it's all in one place, it can sometimes feel like we're kind of twiddling our thumbs a little bit. So there is like a balance for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But on the flip side, I did a wedding last year. The couple were like very kind of very budget conscious. Again, understandable. Like, it's, you know, think weddings are expensive. And they had multiple locations, so I sort of broke my kind of golden rule, and I was like, okay, no, it's fine, we'll make it work. And it was just like, it was a great wedding, actually. It's one of the best weddings I shot last year, but my gosh, it was like stressful. I was like, I just remember coming off it, and it's like, if there was 2 of us there, it would have been like just so much more straightforward. So yeah,
do you find as well, though, because you always work with Tim, and I know you found this, Chris, and you've always tended to work with regular second shooters, don't you? Obviously it was Kate first and now Josh, that you do find you kind of have your kind of like 2-person dance down, that you kind of know what each other's thinking, so you know that you probably naturally adopt certain roles. It's not as if you're just pulling in a second that's a stranger. So almost it does feel that when you go to a wedding alone, that you have had a limb cut off because you're so used to working as a 2.
That is a good point. Yeah, like I most people, you know, they have that struggle where you're trying to find someone, you know, for a summer Saturday, like in August, depending on how far people are willing to commit to that day, your pool of selection of people is going to be quite small, isn't it? Like, you know, they're decent and trustworthy. So yeah, I definitely have that benefit. Yeah, for sure. Like you say, when we work together, it's not like we don't even have to. It's like we're just like one brain sort of thing. We know exactly what the other person's doing. So
Steve, we're obviously going to talk about like some of the products, the mic mag that you've made, and your new app Prelude. But what I think that the first thing leading into it really is like, why is it something that you wanted to do to like start creating things? Is it like an exit strategy, or is it just something that you've done as a hobby to like start to just for fun, or that has ended up being like quite popular in the industry, or what's sort of your reason for going into that kind of thing?
Good question. So like I think so with my mag specifically, that came off the back of the Russell Kent Nichols' talk at the first Coder conference, where his talk was kind of, you know, was kind of around having a bit of a not side hustle, but like a kind of passive income from like something, because obviously he sells his like digital products and stuff. And it was just talking about that. So I think off the back of that probably got the creative juices flowing. I think a lot of people definitely, there's a few things that popped up after that. So that literally came off the back of that, and it sounds cheesy as, but I think I had the idea for it in the shower. It was literally a shower thought.
I have so many good ideas in the shower, and I'm pretty sure we've spoken about this on the pod a few times before. Yeah, the best ideas in the shower.
In the shower, and it was simply because at the time on doing the commercial video for that, the mics we use are, we've changed now, but yeah, then it was like the DJI kind of, whatever the DJI mics, I can't remember their name actually, which use the kind of magnet attachment with them.
That's it, they're just DJI mics, that's all they're called.
Yeah.
The
DJI mics, yeah. I always get mixed up between them and the wireless Goes.
The Rode wireless Goes,
yeah. Which is the Rhodes. But yeah, the DJI mics, but yeah, they obviously have the branded kind of magnet, which always frustrated me anyway. But then I thought, I always looked, when I first got them, I was like, it's just so easy and simple, like the way you kind of attach them with the magnet. I was like, that's genius. Like, how has this not been done before? And then so off the back of that, the Coder Talk, I was like, I wonder if there's something you can do with the TXs, and I wonder if there's a way you can kind of make them work with a magnet. So yeah, that's where it came from, and yeah, it was simply kind of trying to scratch that itch and maybe fill a need that I had, because I was like, I love the way the DJIs work. I wonder if that's something that can be done with the TXs, or some sort of backwards compatibility aspect of it. So
yeah, I remember you came along when we went to that retreat. You came with like a prototype of it, didn't you?
Yes.
And you were sort of showing us, and I remember being like, this is cool, but I don't use the TX, so I'm definitely not going to get any use out of this. But it was cool to transform something which is already used by a lot of people into something better. I think that's quite a unique thing, because there's not a lot of things that you already own that you can just add something quite small and quite cheap to, and suddenly you've got something like which it makes your films a lot better, because these mics are hidden. It probably makes couples, like I was saying earlier, like couples, bridesmaids, and that have been really impressed that I've been able to hide the mic so well. And so I think it was. I remember thinking that's really impressive, especially the fact that getting a physical product to market must be. What was the process of getting that physical product from idea? Did you have to find specific designers and suppliers and things like that, or?
Yeah, so again, not knowing anything about this, having never done it before, my initial thought was, okay, I'll approach CAD designers, perhaps, and kind of tell them my idea, and maybe send them a TX and kind of get them to create some sort of mock-up or design with that, and then I would then take that CAD design, maybe find a manufacturer somewhere to produce it. But yeah, long story short, I essentially found an all-in-one. It's a company based just outside of Worcester. That basically they kind of created the CAD design and the prototype, and then they do in-house manufacturing as well. So nice. it was just a perfect fit. And I literally, I think when I was approaching people, because I was like, this is such a niche, weird thing. I don't know how to explain to them what I want. So I literally recorded a video of myself. I think it's a minute and a half, just showing this is a TX, this is a DJI mic. I want to kind of make something that does, emulate, copies that sort of functionality. Yeah. And then they came back to me and they said, this sounds like a great idea. We can definitely help out. And it was just backwards and forwards with them basically. I ultimately I had the idea, but I can't take credit for the kind of way it works and the design. That was all them. I don't know how long exactly it took, maybe a month or two. They came back to me with a 3D kind of mock-up CAD design, this is what we think would work well. And I was like, that's genius, the way it kind of slots in the back and you sort of twist it to sort of lock it in. Absolutely genius. And then quite soon after that, I had the prototype, which obviously I took to the meetup that you were at. And then off the back of that, lots of good feedback there. Just to went back to them and sort of started talking sort of unit numbers and costs of per unit, how much that would be, and just went through down that process, which was super interesting. Never done anything like that before, but the company that I work with are absolutely great. So they made it all very streamlined and easy for me.
It's very
good
cool.
But I think also it's an interesting business model, and it's something that I've always thought at kind of a lot, is that weddings I think is a great industry for all of us, in that we love our jobs, but in terms of business and cold hard cash, being a personal brand in a service based industry when you're one person is a terrible idea for business. Do you know what I mean? You're the most kind of valuable commodity in your business is you. Yeah. Where if you can have something kind of on the side which links to an area of knowledge that you have, a market of colleagues that you already have, but obviously the profit and the money that you can make from this is relative to how many products you sell. Like that is a much better, like if you were looking at it from a purely sort of money and business point of view, being like we are in a service-based industry is we can only make so much money gathered against our worth and how many weddings we're willing to shoot.
Yeah.
So to have something on the side, which obviously very much harks back to that talk that Russell gave, didn't it, about whether it's a digital guide or it's a physical product like you've got, to have something like that to run alongside the kind of, me as a skilled person going to weddings,
passive income.
It balances that out really well, I imagine, doesn't it? Like, again, you can sell mic mags all year round, not just, the times that you're at weddings.
Yeah, exactly. And it's obviously very niche. Like I never expected it to be like a massive, I knew it wasn't going to and it hasn't, just FYI, hasn't changed my life in terms of kind of finances and anything like that. I never thought it'd be like a huge money maker because it is very niche, and I was like,
what do you mean? You just gave us a tour of your mansion, didn't you?
Yeah, I was like, people, there's probably like a time limit on this because naturally something else will come along that people will kind of switch to, which we've already, I know you use the Hollyland Larks, which a lot of people are kind of moving into, which I totally get. And then I think at the time, I thought, well, maybe I could expand it out and then have different fixtures and fittings for other mics and stuff. But I think, again, it's just more and more mics have come out that serve that purpose, and they've got a bit smaller and they've got a bit more compact, and they kind of, they're slowly kind of getting the way to the kind of perfect mic where it's nice and small, it's nice and easy to put on, you can kind of hide it really well. But there's for me at least, there's always been something that has put me off. With the Larks, for instance, I don't like the fact that they're wireless. I know you can kind of almost don't even use the wireless functionality, but that still to me, has an element of interference risk and stuff.
You don't need to use it at all. They're internal recording.
But I actually don't know fully. I don't know my research, but so can you turn off? So I know you can record internally, but can you literally sort of say, I don't want them to broadcast?
No, I don't think so. Maybe the thing is, I don't know if they're actually on when you don't use the receiver. Because I've never even taken the receiver to a wedding, I don't think, and you probably should because it's the only way to lock them. I don't know if there's a way to just literally go, there's no signal going at all. I get people's concern of that. It's never affected me, but I don't. I thought they worked on a different signal to PA system, house mics and things like that. So
to be fair, again, I'm probably going back to way back when, again, having shot weddings for what feels like a long time now. Yeah, I used to use Sennheiser wireless mics back in 2015, 2016. Yeah. And I definitely had a lot of issues. So I've probably got a bit of PTSD from wireless mics. Yeah. There's definitely an element of risk there. So at least for me, I still use the TXs. I still really like them. I know the audio quality is obviously not ideal, but they still work really great. But but at least obviously you've used the blend, the kind of color magnets as well that I've used, which then can work with other magnetic based microphones. And I think
so
that
the Larks
they've
have a little a rubber bit. It must be magnetic in some way, but that goes over the clip. And then I have I think the blend ones or something came with a little square, a white square thing.
A real rudimentary kind of naff square plate. But I was like, I need to have something that goes with them to almost store them. So I got them made up. It's not ideal, but it works. It's functional.
It works, and I have all of my magnets attached to this one square plate, and that's what I keep in my sling bag. So that I'm okay, I'll go to mic someone up. It's what colour dress have you got on later? Oh, it's going to be green. Let me pull out my plate. Which colour? Whatever.
So you're in Halford, or not Halford, home base, trying to colour match paint with someone's dress.
So I think regardless of whether the TX becomes not trending soon and that kind of thing, I think whilst a coloured magnet is seems relatively simple, I don't think it's that easy to get hold of something of that form factor. Yeah, I think that is the thing that will last the test of time, really.
But also it's a mixture of things. You said, I know that you said obviously you're not making, the goal isn't to retire on this or make millions, but there's still a tiny magnet. There's always going to be a use for that, whatever thing that you say. Rather than someone sitting there with painting magnets of their own to use when they could buy yours, it's a far more easier thing. But also there's still the kind of things that people will lose at a wedding, and probably every couple of seasons you're going to have to go, I've lost the white one, or I need to buy another green.
Selfishly hope that happens.
So it's not good. Again, for someone that has to replace most of their end caps twice a year because I leave them on the sides at weddings, so they fall out my pockets. A magnet like that would definitely be something I would need
service
to.
is needed once a year. You get a shipment.
You pay a lifetime subscription. Whenever you lose one, you get one dropped in. But I think again, to have that for me, when I kind of saw it, is that the ability for those colour magnets, but particularly as well, like maybe grooms aren't as fussed about, they've got a jacket pocket or a lapel or something you can hide a mic behind, but to go up to like a mother of the bride who's doing a read-in, who's in like a kind of more like much softer fabric thing or something really patterned, or maybe someone who's much more conscious of how intrusive it looks to have a black box more or less strapped to them, to be able to have something like that which literally hides it. And like, I don't know if you can see on Steve's camera now, but you're wearing the white one, aren't you?
I am indeed, yes.
It took me a while to notice when we first jumped on to talk that you've got the TX on, and that just goes to show that if it can be that hidden on a white t-shirt, which is no pattern and no plain, for you to be able to put that onto a bride's dress and it be equally as kind of unseemly, I think it's a real genius move.
Yeah, and interestingly, the blends were an absolute afterthought. Like, I never,
really?
It wasn't even till so this is, I'm having a bit of a stock issue with them at the minute, because essentially I got them from a manufacturer based in China, so separate to the manufacturer that kind of made the kind of mic mags themselves, because like I say, they were more of an afterthought. So the manufacturer that makes the mic mags is fine, but I'm looking to switch the manufacturing over to them. Well, I am for the blends, the kind of colour magnets, but again, there's some stock issues there. So, they were an afterthought, but they have become like almost like just as popular. Like, and I have people that have messaged to say, "Are you getting them back in stock soon?" And like, because I think there is such a nice feeling when you, like you say, you can kind of walk up to someone and pick out the perfect colour. And like, a lot of the feedback I get from videographers, and I've a videographer that's messaged me a few weeks ago actually, and to show me a feedback from her actual bride, and how she was almost like singing her praises, i.e. her videographer, about it was so good the way you had these, like the microphones, you could hide them and match them to the bridesmaids' dresses and everything. So even like her couple was impressed, and I was like, that's crazy to me. Yeah. So there's like I say, for them to be such literally just an afterthought, they have been proven just as popular. So, which is cool.
Yeah, I sent you that Ray-Ban video, didn't I? When you sent me them beforehand, of like me miking up that girl, like bride. I can't remember. I think she was doing a reading during the ceremony, and she's like, "Oh, this is cool." And like, it's just easy for them just to whack it on themselves as well. Because sometimes, as a bloke, you just want to be like, you can do it if you want, if you feel comfortable doing it yourself.
The intimacy issue of trying to mic someone up with a wire and but then to literally go, it's a magnet. Like you can just snap it on. That's
just put it under your top. I'll snap the magnet on top. Done. Job done. So it's super easy. But I think that's been and like you said earlier, for photographers, not having to fill out that
fire exit signs and fire extinguishers are a pain in my life as enough, let alone microphones. So to be able to do that, and particularly again, if you've got a bride in a white dress with a magnet, or even say a groom in pocket, or someone doing a read-in and stuff, like it's if you are bothered or they're bothered about the way it looks, it is something you kind of feel duty bound to clone over, and you do that a few times every gallery, the time stacks up, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the next thing, obviously, you've moved on to now, which again, like is a pretty recent thing, and I've had a go at it a couple of weeks ago. I sort of did it for a little test wedding. Is your new app? So if you want to sort of explain what you're doing with that and sort of what it is.
Absolutely, yeah. So I recently launched an app called Prelude, and the core of it, at its core, is essentially it's an app where you can throw your messy, convoluted, complicated wedding schedule into it, whether you're a photographer or a videographer, and Prelude takes that and builds a nice, clean, easy to kind of view timeline, and then is able to display your current event and your next and the event after that on your lock screen as well via a live activity. So alongside having this nice and easy to view timeline of your day, in theory, you don't even have to open the app. You can just have it on your lock screen. You can kind of see, okay, I've got this event happening in 10 minutes, and then obviously once that ticks over, it changes on to the next event. So that is essentially what it does at its core. And long term, my thing for my kind of goal for it is for it to be the app that wedding suppliers open on the wedding day. So my goal is to expand it out to as many kind of wedding roles as possible, and tailor it and make it unique to them, whether they be florists or musicians or planners, So whenever they kind of add their schedule or what they need, what the app displays back to them will be unique to them. And obviously there's already a few things in there that are unique to photographers, and then the features that are unique to videographers.
Yeah. So yeah, you were saying earlier, weren't you?
Yeah, we were talking about it. Yeah, and again, like you said
it.
yourself, I think is the fact that it is a scheduling app. All suppliers that are spending any time at a wedding have certain tasks they need to keep, don't they? And like we were saying, obviously, again with like if you're a wedding planner or on the day coordinator and you're managing lots of different weddings, to be able to have that set of timings preloaded in, so you're not getting confused with others, or again the fact that you don't have to then even open your phone to have it kind of come up is or the evolution of where it could go. Say across the entire industry away from photo and video.
I forgot to mention the group shot thing as well. There is group shots, right, for photographers.
Yes, so it's unique to photography, and it's genuinely my favourite feature, and I'm gutted because I can't actually kind of properly use it, which is where if you're a photographer and you put your schedule into it and you obviously have your group shots in there, it pulls out your group shots and the photographers get a feature called shot list. So if you tap on that, it shows your group shots that you've got, and obviously it shows the different names and the family members in like a nice sort of nice tick list that you can tick off. But as well as that, you can then choose to share your group shot list. There's like a live link via message, cool. WhatsApp, AirDrop, whatever, and you can share that with like a willing helper. And then via that link, they can tap on it. It opens your group shot list on their phone, and then they can then see obviously who you need for your group shots, and then tick them off as you go as well, and that syncs back to the Prelude app. So, depending on how you work as a photographer, you can do that yourself, or your helper can literally tick them off as you go, so you don't even have to worry about knowing which ones you've done or haven't done or whatnot. So,
and they wouldn't need the app. Would they need the app, the helper?
No.
So
It literally,
like
it opens in their web browser via a web page, so they don't need the app. And then, like I say, it syncs back, and then it also, alongside the group shots, it also pulls in a list of any detail shots that the couple might have mentioned in their schedule or their questionnaire, and it tries to categorise those. So, say if there's certain shots they want during bride prep and groom prep, it will, in theory, hopefully, intelligently put those in the right spot. So you might say for bride prep, she wants shots of the rings, shots of the bouquet, obviously all the standard stuff. But then if there's any sort of shots of certain family members, it'll kind of try and group them intelligently. And again, you'll have them there, so you can kind of tick them off, so you've kind of done them.
That's really good, I think, and a couple of notes, particularly with the group lists. I know as being a photographer, the amount of times that when I used to use paper lists back in the day, and then a best man would come along or a maid of honor and go, I can help with this, and they would take your group list to then go and find the people, and you'd never see it again. So then you've got to try and remember who you're doing because they're trying to round people up with it. Or at the same time now that, again, from a sustainability point of view, I try and print off as little as possible so that I end up building my schedule from my questionnaire on Studio Ninja into the notes app on my phone, where if I had something like this then and they were able just say to scan a code or I'd open that group list in the browser, I haven't got to then give that maid of honor my phone to then go wander around a wedding to go find people. Yeah. So I think that feature alone, I think, beyond the scheduling is something that would be a real game changer for me.
Again, while the main thing is that I'd see. Well, the main thing I see is like the schedule and the live notification, and it's like you sort of open your phone from the lock screen. It says now is reception drinks, upcoming couple shoot, or speeches, or whatever it might be. Like some of the most helpful bits are, like you say, like detail shots, group shots. Being able to share that group shot. This is really cool. And I know that for videographers, there's a list of who to mic up for speeches and that kind of thing. Isn't there?
Yeah. So for videographers, like the thing that's more unique to them is that it'll pull out the features called like mic targets. So it'll kind of intelligently look for people that you've referenced in your questionnaire or your schedule that need miking up, and if that's the case for that event on the timeline, it will have a little mic symbol, and then their name. So for ceremony, it'll say like mic, a little mic symbol, then groom, celebrant, and then maybe names of people giving readings, and then same for speeches and stuff as well. So like I say, trying to tailor it so each role has features unique to them, and there's a few like crossover features and stuff as well.
Yeah, I think I was really, one of the things the first thing I did when you said sort of like have a go at this and have a test of it is it obviously comes up saying like upload your schedule here sort of thing, And I was like, I've got this, like just basically a cheat sheet that I use that has everything on it. It has speeches, ceremony, like locations of different things, and the additional notes from the couple and things like that. And just a schedule written sort of like briefly in a draft. And I was like, I'm just going to screenshot this and upload it and see what it makes of it. And it, no lie, like it literally perfectly pulled out the individual speeches, the timings. It pulled out everything perfectly. And I was like, oh wow. So literally you can take a screenshot of my cheat sheet. It's not even like you have to go in and like type the schedule out or copy and paste the schedule in. You can literally like probably screenshot your student ninja questionnaire or whatever it is.
Or again, a lot of times, like,
it works with images, PDFs, and then like you say, just copy and pasting text. So and if there's demand for other, I had a few issues trying to get it to work with like Word documents because there's like different versions of Word documents. But for now, PDFs, images, and obviously text.
So I'm assuming, and we'll get into it like soon, but I'm assuming that is an AI API that's scraping the whatever you're putting in.
Correct. Yeah. It's using the Claude API. So once you click sort my schedule, at that point it then obviously takes that data and then Claude sort of sorts it and categorizes it, presents it.
And that's kind of why I did it, because I was like, I wonder if this is going to be like a Claude API or whether it's going to be, because it's much harder to do something like that with just code, because I don't know if you've listened previously, but I've been making my own CRM just to use myself, and one of the things I was trying to integrate was Student Ninja, like exporting clients and jobs from Student Ninja and bringing them into my new CRM, and I really didn't want to use like a Claude API for it, even though it'd been much easier. So I just literally use HTML, and it literally has to like figure out which bit is the title of the package and which bit is the money and everything, whereas Claude will take one look at it and be like, okay, well, that's
smart enough to know what
exactly. So it's much easier. So the fact that you don't have to go in there and it's that barrier of entry of, I've got to type my schedule out on another bloody app now. It's not there.
Well, that's it.
Go on.
That's it. The intention was always to be like the barrier, like the great choice of words, the barrier to entry needs to be as low as possible. Like I'm that kind of person anyway when I'm using an app. Like if I have to jump through hoops to get something done, I'm like, I'm not a big fan of that. So, and I know, because we already, as wedding suppliers, we already have our questionnaires from our couples, and then some kind of reformat it, some don't or whatnot. So I already knew that's the kind of default. So it's like, okay, when I was making it, I'm like, it needs to be a case of taking that and just chucking that into it, and then that's all you have to do basically, is as easy as possible. And then future integration hopefully would be to work directly with CRMs if they're willing to work with me, so you can literally connect it to your CRM and then literally choose your couple and then perhaps choose the questionnaire that they filled out, and it just pulls that in automatically. So even like less friction there, but that again, long-term goals.
Yeah, but I think even again though, I think about like my questionnaire that I send out, like that final questionnaire to couples, that has obviously a lot of the information I need in it, but then I also have a kind of link at the bottom where they can upload the venue's PDF or whatever, because I always think, well, if I can work to the exact timings and there's some more information normally on the venue's PDF about guest numbers and children, odd little numbers, the kind of things that you don't always need to know, but are just nice to kind of a bit of info that. Like if venues could use this, do you mean if you've got multiple wedding coordinators working to whatever, if they can then take a questionnaire, load it into this, and then whoever works that wedding on the day has got all the info they need, or it generates them a real sexy looking like timeline for that stuff. It's not who's miking people up. It's like who are the vegetarians that we need to give this plate of food to, or who are this. Like the scope in there is.
Yeah, there's a world based on what you're looking at of like it being the app that people pull out, that all the suppliers turn up with the app on their phone, and even if someone hasn't put the details in, they can scan a QR code or get a link from the other person that opens that app, and then you're all on the same app with the same live notification on your phone and on the same page without having to be like
imagine if like a wedding coordinator came over to you in the morning, and they have that, can we talk timings, and they literally just scan a QR code and I'll just give you everything, like if you're not sure what we're working to, it just gives you
his timings, group shots, speeches, everything that's happening in the run of the day.
And that is again long-term goal, and I think adding like the planner role in the future will kind of really look to flesh that out, because there'll be a natural halo effect if planners kind of use it, then they might say then suppliers, when they're working with suppliers, then they can use it and stuff. So that is long-term goal where you have multiple suppliers at the same wedding using it, and hopefully maybe even if it's a big wedding, there's going to be like an element of kind of almost like a small social circle for that wedding
Yeah.
where the planner can perhaps like send a notification to all suppliers to say, oh, such and such is delayed by this amount of time, and then it updates automatically. Again, lots of ideas and features, but for now I've started with what I know, which is videography, and as a byproduct of shooting with lots of photographers, some of the pain points that photographers have as well. So that's what I've started with, and so far so good, hopefully.
So some of the things you've already mentioned, and just to play devil's advocate, and maybe not, because obviously this isn't sponsored, but we really love what you do, and like it's definitely, I'd obviously use your stuff. How there's going to be people listening to us. How is this different to the old trick of screenshotting the schedule and popping it as a lock screen background? What would you say to those people? It's not wildly different for sure. Like, I think there's definitely going to be people that would always prefer something like that. Just, I guess, on that point, like, everyone has a different way of working, right? And I know that it's not going to be ideal for everyone. And the idea for the app kind of came from a conversation that I had, I think, last year with a few videographers, and I was on the hunt for something like Prelude, basically, where I was like, there's got to be an app that exists where it's almost like it's like an on-the-day event. Like, it doesn't even have to be wedding specific, but like almost like an events industry app where you can feed it a schedule and it creates like a nice timeline for you to kind of like, just check and reference. And a videographer friend of mine was like, well, I'll just do that anyway. I do it as a calendar entry. So each wedding event is another event in my calendar. And I said, well, that sounds like hell to me. Like, I don't want to open my calendar app and have like 20 events time by time. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. But that's the way it worked for him, and that's the way he did it, and it worked great for him. So there's always going to be like people that have other ways of doing things for sure. But so I guess there's other features that it offers that on top of like, say, showing a schedule that someone might just have on their lock screen to kind of help. Like with the mic targets, it also has like a few other features, like you can check, it automatically pulls in the airspace restrictions for the venue. You can add in quick locations for multi-venue weddings, so you can, prior to the wedding, you can add in like the groom prep location, bride prep location, church, and then you can quickly go on there, click navigate. So again, as a pain point I have, rushing out of bride prep, knowing you're going to get to the church, and you quickly, where is it? Make a choice the right one. Yeah, where's that address?
Peace of mind. You've already added that. All you have to do is open the app and click navigate, and you're on your way.
And it links through to your maps as well, does it? So if you click on that address
you can choose navigate and choose Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps. It also pulls in emergency contacts if they're in your schedule. So again, you've got quick access if you can't find a bride prep location. Again, I've been there, done that. Also pulls in suppliers as well if you've got them in your schedule. So it's kind of like building upon like that basic level of like, here is the schedule on my lock screen, and just trying to expand upon that and just make it a bit more feature rich. People will opt to open that, and that's where the live activity comes into it, because it still has that element of like on your lock screen. And that's all you need. You never need to open the app on the wedding day, which again, as suppliers, we don't want to be seen to be on our phones, right? So if you need more information, you can then just tap the live activity, opens the app, and then you can kind of get the information you need. And it also has an Apple Watch app as well. Sorry, I totally don't want this to be like a kind of sales pitch for sure, but
it's always I think you're saying the right thing. It's just,
almost to answer that question, I guess, is like, how is it better than like you say, just the schedule on lock screen? It's just all those different things.
That was my next question, because obviously I know that Josh that works with you, Jaws Second, he said it in the past where he's logged all of the activities as separate things in the calendar, so then it does link to his watch, so he's not on his phone. But for you to say that this app has the watch, you can do it your own manual way and it will still work similarly, but you're offering a platform, aren't you, which then kind of automates all of that for you and streamlines the process. So I guess if for anyone that's doing a bulk of weddings, for you to then have to log 20 events into your calendar manually for 30 weddings a year or whatever, you can easily see how that becomes like a really lengthy process, where if your app can take all that functionality and make that a lot more streamlined,
it's almost like something that guides you along, isn't it? It guides you along through the day rather than you having to. Because I know that like I don't do the lock screen thing because I'd forget to change it and just have someone schedule up for days, right? And I don't do the calendar thing because I don't want that many things in my calendar.
Also, me and my wife share calendars. She would hate me if she was on a Saturday at a wedding, and then was like sat there on the sofa watching telly, and all of a sudden at 5 o'clock it pinged up like dinner time, then speeches, then this, and it's like.
I actually had 24-hour reminders on as well. The day before.
Also, I'd forget to change my lock screen back to the picture afterwards, and I'd feel like 3 days later I I've still got someone else's wedding.
So having that when you leave in the morning, you can just hit start live, whatever it is, I can't remember what the button is, but start
live activity, yeah. But it is actually it's scheduled. It's automatically due to start at 7 a.m. on the day of a wedding as well. So you shouldn't even in theory have to start it yourself. You can, but in theory, like if it's working correctly, at 7 a.m. it should automatically add the live activity to your lock screen.
Yeah, so you just wake up, you're basically not even left yet most of the time, and there'll be a live notification saying when your first event is or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then to guide you through the day, and every time you pick up your phone, it literally lights up, or even just look at your watch and it lights up, and there's the next event and that kind of thing. I do think it's just like anything, these other methods will work, but there's nothing like a dedicated version. And like you say, if you can make it so that it is sort of industry standard, that the more people use it, the more helpful it is for each individual person, then, isn't it? So
like you were saying, then if you can start to get sort of multiple suppliers on one day using the same app, that I often find, particularly as photographers and videographers, we're the people that are kind of with the couple for all of the day. And I know that I've been at a bridal prep house in the morning thinking, but the bride's getting to her dress late, so she's not going to be at the church on time. If I could just literally ping a notification, as I'm driving frantically in my car from the bridal prep house over to the ceremony, for then the planner at the other end or someone else using that app to go, just as a heads up, the photographer's only just left now, which means the bride's not going to be here. Like they almost see that coming before you've even arrived. Then you could just do your job.
Imagine like a supplier group chat within the app that you can keep in contact.
That is essentially that is a feature I've already got on the roadmap again, long term. But that is essentially almost like a per wedding social circle, basically, where you get added as a supplier and then some sort of like chat element. Again, I know these things can happen just with WhatsApp chats and stuff, but it's just trying to make it as streamlined as possible. And so it is like it's dedicated to that wedding, and then post wedding maybe you then don't then have access to it and stuff. But
yeah. And like you say, so the more you add to it, the more people use it, and potentially like moving it into CRMs going forward, how you would price that with your current subscription pricing and stuff, I don't know, but like it would again make it more useful for more people then as well. So it's one of those things that like once something is multi-level, it becomes so much easier to use. We were having this discussion on an episode we just recorded where I've basically made my own video delivery service, so I'm not using VidFlow anymore, and having that within, I've attached that within the CRM that I've built, so it can connect up to like my couples and things like that, and the domain is my domain, the couple's name is on there rather than a random string of characters after VidFlow. It all just lines up, and the more it lines up within the same software, you don't have to think, it's another app I've got to download and that kind of thing. Like I think it's a very smart move, the going into CRMs, and like I think you mentioned Wadola at some point maybe being a bit of a target, but.
Yes, I've already chatted a little bit to Russell. He's a busy man. He's got a lot going on, bless him. We exchanged a couple of messages recently, so that is in the works, hopefully. But like I say, lots of features. Currently working on a big update at the minute, where you'll be able to sort of delay events. So if something is running behind, you can kind of swipe to delay, and it'll automatically kind of create that for future events. And also like a little quality of life feature which I quite like is being able. It will show. For weddings that you've got coming up, it will pull in like a weather schedule as well, so you'll be able to see. Because I always used to check that, but now I turn up on the day of a wedding sometimes where I don't even know what the weather's like for that day. Maybe I've just become a bit more comfortable with what I'm doing. So a little thing where like you can kind of quickly see at a glance of like, okay, so what's the weather going to be like on that wedding day in that location, and it'll kind of pull in information like that as well. So just little things where it's like I say, the app that a supplier will open on the day to kind of get to see what's happening and what's coming next.
Yeah, because if you're not working in your local market, you can't just stick your head out the window in the morning and go, it's sunny here, it'll be all right. Because if you're like 90 minutes or a couple of hours down the road, the weather can be very different, can't it? So I mean, that is a cool feature. Yeah.
So one of the questions I was going to ask was it's probably more of a personal question to me, because I'm looking at doing a similar thing for a completely non-wedding related app. But what was the process of getting that on the App Store? Because so far what I've done is created it as a web app and sort of transformed it with codecs into an iOS app. But obviously there's that whole paying your sort of developer fee, getting it tested, getting it approved by Apple. What's that sort of process like?
Yeah,
Tom, by the way, is not just randomly walking away. He's got his dog Max is constantly asking to be let out and in. So
that's fine. But it's there's definitely hoops you have to jump through for sure. So I think anyone that's kind of delving into the world of using AI to create apps and all that sort of thing, definitely make sure like if there's something that you want to do, if you want it on the App Store on iOS, because I knew, like, especially with the live activity, I knew that's something I wanted and needed to happen. But yeah, there's definitely hoops you have to jump through. But for the most part, the process was relatively straightforward, and it got approved. I think I submitted on the Thursday, and by Monday it was approved. It got like rejected, like for a minor issue initially. I fixed that, and then it got approved on the second try. So, but again, like using AI kind of just guides you through it. I had it kind of check through the code base multiple times. I kind of gave access to like Apple's developer guidelines and said, I want you to study these and then check through the code base and like create a report of any issues that you might think that will crop up, that will got kind of like flags for rejection and things like that. And I did that, I think 3 or 4 times throughout the kind of, creating it, just to ensure that it was kind of like as close to ideal as it could be, let's say, for submission to Apple. But yeah, it was. There's definitely, that took a little while to kind of get that in place, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the bit that I'm like, I've made the app and now I'm like, I've got to go through all those hoops now to try and get it on the App Store. Even though I know it's like good, it's going to be a case of like, they've got to have some, checklist of things that they go through, and I guess we don't even know what they are based on never having done it before. So
because I've got another colleague a friend who I know from weddings, who is a DJ, and he basically made, like, he calls it Tinder for wedding playlists. So you can play your music and then swipe to go, yes, I want this on my playlist, no, I don't like that, you can't play that.
Nice.
And he builds a lot of his playlists or gets his couples to do this activity so that they then build the playlist for their wedding. And he had the same thing. I remember speaking to him on numerous occasions about, again, the hoops he had to jump through to get it verified on the Android store and then again on the Apple store as well. So that, again, much like this app, it's only going to work, isn't it, once you can get it as installed as an app on your phone to build in those functionalities as something which is on desktop only, or it's always browser based. It's always going to have its limits, isn't it?
Yeah. So you mentioned obviously like AI coding. I want to sort of like talk and deep dive into that. That's how you've made this app. That's how we've spoken about on the pod before. That's how I've made the CRM that I've made and the sort of video delivery system and everything. And it's something that's really, really interested me. And like one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here, really, we had a quick discussion about it. And sort of you mentioned ChatGPT's Codex, which for anyone that doesn't know, it's kind of like been nicknamed vibe coding, right? And it's vibe coding is essentially when you don't know. Coders use it as well, but let's say a lot of people, if you don't need to have really a base knowledge of code to start vibe coding. All you have to do, in theory, is go onto an app like Claude, ChatGPT, or there's plenty of others, and say, can you make me something that does this? And you're never going to get it to be exactly the way you want it just by that one prompt. But from there, you use natural language. So basically speak to AI like you would speak to your app designer and be like, oh, but can this do this? And can this change this? And can this button add this? And it will tell you exactly what it's doing. It will tell you like the reasons it's done it. You can roll back if you want to. You can sort of brainstorm with it and ask it the best ways to do things. I've been using a combination of Claude and a couple of other things to create my stuff. But Codex never really come onto my radar until you said it, and I actually ended up using it which Codex is ChatGPT's version of this vibe coding thing, and I actually used it to transform one of the app that I want to get on the App Store from a sort of regular web app into something that works on the Xcode, Apple's like own thing that you can preview on an iPhone and things like that. So like speak to us about your experience with AI code. Is it something that you did before you started on this app, or were you like, I've got an idea, let's have a look, see how I can make this?
But basically the latter. I have no developer knowledge whatsoever. It kind of came from chatting to probably a mutual friend of ours, Aaron Kenny, who's definitely Mr. AI. He knows, he's very deep in the world of AI, and he kind of, I chat to him anyway a lot about it. We're both really interested in technology and all that sort of stuff. So he created a service like called Web Search using AI, and it was off the back of that I already knew that people were kind of creating apps with AI. I got the cogs turning, so I initially created almost like a thing for myself called film post, because again, it's probably going a bit of the way of the dinosaur, but I've been historically very bad at like having films, like fresh films on like YouTube, creating blogs, that sort of thing. So I was like, oh, can AI help me with this? And essentially that's what Film Post is, where I can take one of my films, I can drag it into the Film Post kind of like web page, and then from there it automatically uploads it to YouTube with a kind of SEO friendly title and description. I answer questions, by the way. It asks me questions about the wedding, so it's not just like AI slop. It is like, it's obviously there is an element of AI writing the text and stuff, but I directly give it responses to questions about the wedding, about what happened and all these sorts of things. Automatically creates the title and the description, uploads it, I give it a thumbnail, does the thumbnail, and then it embeds it in a WordPress blog, automatically writes the blog again on all that information, and then so within maybe like 5 to 10 minutes I've got the YouTube link ready to go and a blog post written, and they're like linked basically, so it embeds the YouTube video in the blog. So I created that within maybe like 4 days, and that just blew my mind. I was like, it was such a time saver. I'm like, this is a job that I really don't like, and now all I have to do is just drag my latest wedding film, and it just does it all for me. So that blew my mind. So it was off the back of that. So for that I used Claude to make that. And then from that I kind of then was like, well, what else can I do? And then so that's where Prelude came about, and I can't remember exactly what triggered it, but obviously I already mentioned that I had looked for an app like this like last year, realised there wasn't one, and again I think with this idea in my head I then searched again. I was like, there's got to be an app that does what I wanted, this is what I wanted to do. There wasn't. So it was just again chatting with Claude, this is an app idea, can you help me make it, basically. And it was just going down that rabbit hole, specific. And then I used a combination of Claude and Codex, because I kept running to the limits of Claude. So for those that don't know, like, it has its entry-level plan, which I think is like £20 a month. I can't remember exactly, but
$20, isn't it? So whatever that is.
Yeah, that's it. So it's great, but for when you're using it for coding, depending on what model you're using, you very quickly run into like limits, and you have to wait a few hours before you can use it again. So
even on the basic model, it does look at it looks at your code for like an hour, and then it goes, no, you're out. You come back at 3 p.m. or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, I've not done anything yet.
Exactly. And obviously, I was really excited. I wanted to get this up and running as quickly as possible. So I kept hitting these limits. I was like, So I basically then switched to kind of try and get around that. I then used Claude. Everything went through Claude anyway. But then for the coding aspect within Apple, like you say, within Apple's Xcode software, I used Codex because I already had like a ChatGPT subscription anyway. So I basically used Claude for the kind of the prompt. I would say to Claude, I want to do this, I want to do that. It would then create a prompt, which then I would feed to Codex
to do this,
and then prompt Codex to kind of write that code basically. And I also used Figma for a lot of the design elements. So similarly, everything went through Claude, and then just would split off. So I'd be like, okay, I want to create this UI element, I want to refresh this or do this, can you create me a prompt that I can give to Figma? So to kind of make that happen, and it would create a prompt, I'd give that to Figma, that would do that thing, and then I'd kind of bring that back to Claude and say, this is what Figma's created, can we now turn this into code, sort of thing. So it was just, everything would go through Claude, but using other AI services to help kind of.
So did you find that like, again, this is probably more just for me, but like, did you find that Codex was a little bit like more that you got more usage before it started tell you to come back later?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Initially, I did try and use ChatGPT entirely for everything, but I just found maybe this is user error, and you can maybe kind of tweak ChatGPT to better respond to you. But I just found it was almost like a very excited dog. Like, I'd say, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then it would kind of tell me how to do it. Then it would like write a 4-page monologue about, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? If you do this, you can do that. And I was like, it was just like a bit overbearing. So I was like, but
it's so eager to please that it's actually complicated it in the end.
Genuinely, and it really annoyed me. Whereas Claude's just like this guy, awesome like business like guy. And he's like, yes, I'll do that for you. And there's just no fluff. It will just like make it happen.
It's very matter of fact, isn't it, Claude? Yeah.
It'll make suggestions and stuff. But I found like ChatGPT is amazing, and I can understand why it's the standard, because for the masses it's perfect. But like, I feel like for business focused tasks, I think Claude definitely, I don't know, it feels much better to me for sure. So I ended up going back to that and just feeding everything through that to kind of prompt other services basically.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have definitely found that with Claude. It's definitely for business. I think Claude has been the one, because you ask it a question and I think ChatGPT will give you like a whole like list of like comparative things, and then it'd be like, do you want me to look into this for you as well? And do you want me to just like change the parameters so this happens? Whereas like I've noticed even like, I say simple questions, but like when I was creating the sort of video gallery delivery system, I was like, how can I make this cheaper than VidFlow for me to run? And it was going through options, and essentially what, like, I'm now hosting it through another host and that kind of thing. And instead of compressing the videos, I'm making it so it goes into like if it hasn't been used in a while, it goes into like this archive and takes a bit longer to load the first time someone loads it back up. But it gave me a calculator on how much gigabytes I would upload on this versus how much gigabytes I'd upload on VidFlow and how much it would cost me and how much it would save me. And it's like genius. Like that's literally just what I wanted. Like just tell me how much it's going to cost and let me put in how much I upload and whatever. And it just generated this calculator within the app. And from then I was sold and I was like, yeah, it's
well, I guess it's that thing though, isn't it? Like you say, is that once people kind of get round like ChatGPT, of kind of using it as literally as if you are the CEO and that it is your staff.
Yeah.
That almost ChatGPT is like the thing that you would use if you're on a base level where you don't really know what you want and you want it to give you suggestions and help you along like a coach. Where if Claude is just an employee in a business world and you go, do this, and it goes, yes sir, and does it. It's almost like you use different things for different, and like you said, obviously there's different tasks where each of them excel. But I think the thing that I'm interested in, because until you started making apps, I didn't even know, was aware that this was a thing that was even possible, and still seems like sort of witchcraft.
It is
that obviously, essentially, like Claude and ChatGPT and stuff are competing companies, though. So how do you get to a point where you're kind of playing one off against the other? Like, oh, well, Claude's made me this, and what can you do to it? Like, do they play nicely together?
Yeah, no, they do. And I think I've read online, and I don't know how true it is, but there is an element, like again, Aaron told me this, that there's a thing you can do when you're asking Claude a question or you're wanting it to do something, and it gives you an answer. And again, I don't know much about what it's kind of creating, but there's definitely times where it'll kind of give me an answer, and even I know with like how the app works and the APIs and the connections it has, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And I remember Aaron said to me, he's like, you can prompt it, you can kind of go back to it and say, take a step back and think extra hard. And it kind of, I think it triggers something within it, so it literally does that. And then I read online something similar where you can almost say to it, I don't know how true this is or how people want to figure this out, but that knowing that another AI is going to check its work, basically. It's this idea that like if you say, oh, I'm just going to take this prompt and check it with codecs and stuff and see, and so it's like, I don't know, take that with a pinch of salt for sure, but there's like this idea that when they know that another AI is going to check what it's done, it makes sure that it's correct or extra correct.
But it's like having multiple experts, right? You know, I've been using one called Lovable. I don't know if you heard of it, but that has like a plan mode. So essentially, I would ask Claude to generate the prompt like you did, put it into that plan mode, and it would come back saying, "This is my plan." Then I'd copy that plan, put it back into Claude, and said, "This is Lovable's plan," and it'd be like, "Oh, but it's also suggested deleting this and removing this, which is going to break this." And like because you've got all these experts like talking almost to each other, it's like you end up with something which is much more streamlined. And given that a lot of these things you're paying for usage or credits or things like that, there's generally you want to do it in as few prompts as possible, really. So.
Yeah, exactly. And with Claude specifically, like I use, because again, for those that aren't sort of too clued up on this, there's different models within Claude, and the kind of the super intelligent one, but the one that uses most of the resources is called Opus, and there's one below that called Sonnet. So I primarily use Sonnet because it just means that I can use it more and get less restrictions. But there's absolutely times where I've not been really happy with what it's done. I'm trying to fix it. I've had a few bugs when during the making the app, and I'm trying to, and it's Sonnet hasn't been cutting it, and it's been giving me prompts and I've been running them, and Codex has been doing its thing. It hasn't fixed it. So I've then said, okay, I want you to create a prompt that I can give to Opus, like go into another chat, ask the Opus model this question and to see if that can fix the problem. And 9.5 times out of 10 it has. Like, it really is that different. And I think it is that. So it's like, you'll write a prompt and specifically directed towards the Opus model, and then I'll feed that, it'll answer the question, I'll give that back to Sonnet, and the Sonnet model will be like, oh, Opus did really great there. I can't believe it's kind of found that issue, and it's usually fixed the problem. So yeah, it definitely is like, the way I would describe it, I think you would have touched on it, Chris, is that they almost feel like different employees. Like, I'm the kind of head of the company, I'm the ideas man, but I have no technical knowledge. I'm just like, Claude is my kind of like head, awesome like engineer, and I'm like, I want you to make things happen. And then Codex is
the
my
head coder. He knows how to do it, but he's not going to get his hands dirty.
Yeah, basically. And then he goes to Codex, and he's like, Codex is like, it's top coder. It's like, Codex, I want you to do this. And then Opus is just like this kind of overseeing, like, kind of maybe 50-year veteran who kind of knows everything. So yeah, and then Figma's the kind of sort of awesome one at design. So yeah, they almost feel like different employees, and there's definitely ways you can kind of, use them to their kind of full potential in different ways.
100%.
I find that absolutely fascinating. Yeah. In the same way that I think someone that knows not a lot about AI, or a lot of people make a lot of generalizations about AI, about how it's going to self-pollute and it only knows what it can learn from. The fact that you can ask almost like a different department within the same app the same question and get a different answer purely shows that like you said, like, you are talking to a room of experts. It's not as if it's purely algorithmic, because it just scans the internet for the same thing to just generate the same slop answer. Like, you can ask literally two different people within the same app to do the same thing, and you get, like, I find that absolutely fascinating.
And there's a misunderstanding, I think, that with AI, it's just, I mean, yes, it's conversational, but it's conversation. The more you ask it to think about things or to do specific tasks, the better results you'll get. So, for example, I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but I went to do some research on something. I was like, is this better or is this better? But like, it wasn't just that. I then added up below, like, do your research based on Reddit posts, YouTube videos, this and that. And you could literally see it. Like, it took much longer than it normally does, but you could see, like, because it sort of guides you through what it's doing.
Yeah.
Being like, let me check Reddit for this. Okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Okay, let me check YouTube, let me check the actual specs and route them down. And whereas before it would have just replied with a generic sort of chat response, because I'd asked it to do some research, it genuinely went on and
but you're channeling where you want it to look based on the sources that you trust. You genuinely value the people that are on these opinions of this and that, so it's not just
it's not just gone,
the
whole of the internet job done. It's actually like done some research, and that's where like, to get deeper into, which we won't do too much, but like, you can install skills into these AIs. Like, particular, like, if you want Claude to build a website for you, of course it's just going to build like a relatively generic site based on what it thinks look good. But there's certain like web design skills you can build in, or you can create a file with all of your like style, font, color requirements, and upload it into there, and it becomes, and then like some, even like a Pinterest board style thing, whack it into this one file, and it basically trains it on that data, if that makes sense.
You're almost giving it a brief, aren't you? Much like you said, Steve, where you're kind of playing, one employee off against the other, or this one said this, but what do you think about that? And the fact that you can kind of guide it based on those things, I think, I think it's been a really enlightening conversation as to kind of the way that these apps come out. And I think definitely, like, from the conversation that we've had, is that I think maybe that's the way that the world of things like this is going to go, isn't it? The fact that you can sit there with very little developer knowledge at a base level, but a really cool shower idea of, I want to make this app, and then within, again, I don't want to try and do down the work that you've done, because you've had to go through that process, but it's not as if you've had to go and get a degree in coding or employ.
Absolutely.
Like,
I will hold my hands up, like you say. Ultimately, I've had the ideas, and it's taken a lot of time to get to this point for sure. But I can't take any credit in a lot of ways. But that is the most exciting and scary thing about the whole vibe coding movement, and the fact that you can have AI make these apps for you, is that obviously for those that have all that knowledge and have those years of experience, it must be very scary for them. But on the flip side, it's exciting, because you're going to have so many more niches served that wouldn't have otherwise been served. And I think, like, I just don't think an app like this, I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own ass, but like, I just don't think it would have existed prior to this, because you would have had to, maybe you would have had to have an ex-developer that had started doing weddings and was like, oh, I want to make an app. Do you know what I mean? It would have been
Or
very
you'd have to pay
specific.
someone 10 grand to build it for you because
Exactly,
they know
yeah.
code. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's exciting in that way, in that you can then, you know, things that you want to create, you can create, or services that, like I've already got something that I'm going to have Claude do, not like a full-blown app, but like I used to use an app called Float that connected with Xero, which was like my accounting software, and Float is like a cash flow forecast app. So like you could kind of, it would pull your data in from Xero, and you could kind of add in future income, and it would provide you a nice sort of cash flow of kind of where things would look for the year ahead. But it was like, I think back then it was like £60 a month. It might be more expensive now. So because it's like a finance app, it's really expensive. So, but I now know that I'm like, I don't need to pay for that anymore. I can just kind of feed a lot of this information into Claude and have it create like a kind of cash flow forecast for me. I could probably have it create my own like dashboard that I could update. So yeah, it's an exciting time, but also like it's a ridiculously disruptive time. And I think even me, I think I'm probably, and like yourself, Chris, and others that kind of do this sort of thing, we're like ahead of the curve a little bit, but there's still people that are like far ahead of us that are like way more like involved and with this sort of stuff. So in the next few years, more and more people are going to catch up and realize like how powerful this stuff is, and like what you can do. You can create services for yourself, just to scratch an itch that you have that you might have had to otherwise pay a lot of money for. So that company's losing out. How's that going to, you know, affect the market and stuff? So it's exciting but scary, which I think can summarize AI. In
it is, because these, like you say, a lot of these big companies or apps that have charged us subscriptions for so long, like really, you could get away without having them. And you know, for those listening and are maybe tuning out because it's getting a little bit too technical, just for a second, step back and think, okay, what do I pay a subscription for? A lot of the stuff that we pay subscriptions for now you could probably make for yourself in the way that you wanted to in a few days, sometimes even a day. Like there's an app I used to use called TickTick. I think, was it TickTick or the other one? Anyway, I think whatever it was a £40 subscription just for a general like task-based app where you tick things off and you have different categories and things like that. That's probably less than a day's work in AI now, rather than paying £40 a year.
But I think you've still got to have that rationale or that reasoning. Like I don't like particularly count myself as too much of a dinosaur when it comes to tech stuff. But again, I think even for me to just sit there in front of a blank Claude screen, to even have that jumping off point of going, how do I make this, or to feel that you've got the time to. I think like it's that want, isn't it, or the intrigue of what could I build for this. And I think like you summed it up really well, Steve, is that like it's going to allow things that are, you know, when you talked about your mic mags, they're probably not going to make you millions because our industry is still a fairly big niche in the you know, the kind of the volume of the world. But if it can make, you know, a couple of thousand people's lives a lot easier, it's a worthwhile thing. But to pay a developer thousands of pounds to make the app wouldn't make financial sense. But the fact that AI allows you to make it and sell it to that small corner of the internet, that makes it worthwhile alone, doesn't it? And I think that's what AI is going to do. It's going to allow these niches and not just wedding photography and videography. There'll be loads of kind of things out there. Like I was thinking this, like just in my head, like I'm a sad person that collects like wrestling figures, and people give you like, there's like a paper tick list that you can download to go, oh, tick, I've got that one, I haven't got that one. Like imagine if you could get an app that did that, where you could then go, oh, okay, this is like, I've got that one now, I don't need that one, or it could then scan for when that one comes up for sale, or like, and again, and I could probably build that, and it's like, but that's super niche. There's probably only a few other sad people out there that would actually use it, but the fact that you actually could build it and that become a thing, though, again, you would never take that to a developer and go, can you build me this? Because it would just be ludicrously expensive for the return that you get on it, but it would gratify me and then a few people on the Facebook group that also collect the same wrestling figures that I do.
And that's what I'm saying. So for your business, a lot of people think, oh, I wish there was something that did this, and now there is, because you can make it yourself. And like you say, Steve, it's quite disruptive, because I don't know if you heard, there's like this internet theory that in like 5 to 10 years, maybe even sooner, that we won't be downloading apps, we'll just be like making them for ourselves, sort of thing. And of course there'll be people that would rather just have it all in a package for them. That's going to be the case, right? But I do feel like, you know, in 5 years' time, you could make a Photoshop just by saying, can you make a copy of Photoshop for me? And it would just do something pretty similar. And yeah, I think that's a strange time we're coming into. But like you say, it's quite exciting. And then it's, you know, if it's for a start, if it saves us money, then
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
And also,
So,
the thing of not having to compromise.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you were saying at the moment, you have to use an app out there which exists, which is maybe not 100% what you want, it's only 80% what you want. And then you have to try to find workarounds and quirks within that to make it fit for purpose. Where now, if you haven't got to do that, you could just make a similar version of that, but bespoke for your primary need.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that with Photoshop or Lightroom, is that as a photographer, I don't use 100% of the features that are in Photoshop. I probably only use 20% of them. So if the subscription got to a point where it wasn't worth me paying for all of those skills, if I could get someone to build me something which only used the 20% of the features that I actually use, then that would be a much more better use of my time and money than paying a bunch of money a month to use a lot of the stuff that I don't use.
And I think that's the idea of with some of the features that I've added in Prelude. There's like a quick tool section. I'm going to expand upon that, which is where you can kind of tap on that, and there's a few little added things you can do. And for instance, I think there's in the quick tool section there's a white balance functionality. So it kind of accesses your camera, and wherever you point it, it tells you what the Kelvin kind of value is for the kind of scene that you're looking at.
Nice.
So, but again, it's like that. I saw it recently actually. I'd already kind of added it into Prelude and testing, and then I saw someone talking about an app on the App Store that does that exact same thing. And I think it's like £20 or something like that. And that's, I mean, but again, I'm sure it has a lot more features and functionality than what I've added in Prelude. But like you say, there's like an element of like, well, I don't necessarily need all those. I just maybe just need to see this room that I'm in with like a bit of daylight, a bit of tungsten light. How's that kind of reading? So it does the basics. So, and then I also plan to add like a sort of sun track, because I use an app called Lumos, which is where you can kind of see the position of the sun using your kind of your camera, your phone camera. And I've used it for years, but it's kind of got more and more complex over the years. Well, I open it now and there's like all these lines. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I plan to add again down the line, again, not trying to make it too salesy, but something that's just a bit more like simplistic and basic, but just shows that, but like none of the extra fluff. So more to my needs basically. So there is that element of that, and the irony is not lost on me that I have vibe coded an app that I'm now charging a subscription for. So there's probably going to be people out there in months and years to come or whatever that will like create something very similar that serves their needs better. And I think more power to them. That's the cool thing about it, and especially with the Apple developer program. I didn't realize this, and I'm quite into tech and Apple, but you can actually create completely free of charge. You don't have to pay Apple any fees. You can create an app for yourself, like personally, that you can have running on your phone without paying a fee at all. And then you can cool. I think the yearly fee, I think it's £89. Then obviously you have to pay that if you want to submit it to the App Store, and also if you want to create it as a test flight, which is basically like Apple's kind of like beta testing, which is what I used with you, Chris, where I can send you a link and you can kind of download it and test it. But if you want to create an app just for your personal use, within Xcode, like via Apple software that you can have on your phone, you don't have to pay anything to Apple. So again, the people can kind of start creating apps now that serve their own needs without, with just a Claude subscription basically, or ChatGPT subscription. So the barrier to entry is ridiculously low. And like you say, you can quite quickly have, I think I had like a kind of version of Prelude on my phone within like a day and a half. And obviously it was quite, there was a lot still to do, but I had it essentially running on my phone very quickly.
Yeah,
which still seems wild to me. I think that's a mad the rate of acceleration that this technology has come available, and that's become a thing. You seem to say where we're going to be maybe in that far in the future if that becomes easier to do. But I still think that there's photographers that I speak to now who don't even use CRMs or literally run their businesses still on paper businesses and stuff, that even people like yourselves, like Steve and you, Chris, that are kind of at the point that you're at already. I still think that, and probably I would include myself in that in some ways doing that coding process doesn't excite me in the same way that other parts of my business do. So I would probably still rather give you a small subscription to take that burden off of me and build that thing than me have to spend 3 days or 2 days in Claude doing that. Because I think it's, you do the things that you enjoy, don't you, in your business? And like from in the time that I've known you, Chris, you've always bought the latest gadget or be excited by the newest piece of software. And I've a lot of times used you a filter of, do I actually need this? Is it good? Is it worth investing in? And if you are naturally that kind of person, then the fact that you can go and do this and literally kind of revolutionize what you do by building apps to answer your questions. I think it's a great thing, but I still think in terms of kind of worrying that, vibe coding's going to become a part of everybody's life and just buy their own. Like, I still think there's still going to be a lot of people, probably like me, that it's just far easier to just give you a subscription than it is to kind of want to build my own.
Yourself, and if there's any bugs and whatever, you got to squash them. And
but then again, we have the conversation. Some people just like to moan, don't they? And it's easier to moan at you going, it doesn't work, than it is to try and fix it themselves. Like,
I definitely had, like, obviously been using my CRM as I'm going with it, and like I'll sort of be sending a couple something, I'll be like, oh, that's a bug, I need to fix that before I send that to the couple or whatever it is, and that's just how it is. But eventually it'll be at a point where everything runs perfectly smoothly, and it kind of works out. But I get that, and I'm coming from a perspective of like, for work experience, like at school I did software testing and development, and I always wanted to create and come up, I wanted to come up with the ideas for these things and make them, but I never wanted to learn code or be sat at a desk typing like all of that stuff and testing it out. I just wanted to come up with a cool idea and someone make it for me,
which essentially is what you've done by your,
and now suddenly it's able to happen. It seems a lot, it seems like that box has been opened, sort of thing.
And I don't have any coding knowledge, but I've been like a fan of like Apple and technology for a long time. Like I watch like their kind of Apple WWDC conference every year and all their kind of keynotes and stuff. Bit of a nerd for it. Listen to all the podcasts. So I listen to lots of, over the years, I follow lots of like independent developers. And it's always been like this like very romanticized idea when they all travel to WWDC and they have these big developer conferences. I'm like, that sounds so fun. But I know nothing. So I've always loved the idea of like, wouldn't it be cool to create an app and have it on the App Store and stuff? But and like that's never been a possibility until now. So I've definitely, like you say, Tom, it's not everyone have the inclination to do something like this, but the fact is that they can. But there would absolutely be people. There's probably other people like with Aaron with the thing the service he launched and stuff. Like, I could probably create that myself on it. I wouldn't know how to now, but ultimately he's done it and he's going to continue supporting it and making it better and better. So I'm like, well, that's fine. That's sorted. I can kind of pay him for that and use that and stuff. So there's definitely like a kind of line as to where people might be willing to kind of delve into. But take it from me, it's taken a lot of time to get Prelude to this point. So if anyone else wants to have a crack at it, I welcome them. They'll welcome them too, because again, the more of these things that exist, it's just better for like the industry, for like niches like ours. It's just a good thing. But although, like I say, bad for developers. I do worry for developers.
If you're already a developer,
isn't it?
But if you're someone that, like you say, has a niche app that they want to make, then maybe it's good for them. So well, I've definitely seen on the Reddits of these like of Claude and things like that, like just developers on there like, can't believe there's people creating apps and they don't even know how it works and whatever, and like they're scared. It's like the videographer's reaction to content creators all over again.
I was going to say the exact same thing. There's definitely an echo of that where like, this is a new thing and it's kind of like coming from my job a little bit. But I've got all this experience. Surely experience counts for something. And it does, obviously, but there's obviously the parallels aren't quite there. But now
they need to do more to make people come to them rather than AI.
Also, to a degree, I think it's just evolution. Like if you look at history over the whole kind of thing, like we've spoken about this before. I've spoken to other people about this. Is that I think the dawn of AI, and I've said in the AI episodes that we've done, is that you can liken it to like the Industrial Revolution. Like there were people out there that worked in factories who worked with their hands. They were the most skilled person at making that physical product, and they could make if you could make more than the person next to you, then you were better at your job and worth more. And then a machine came along that they didn't have to pay anything, and as long as someone maintained the machine, it made the things faster than even the fastest human could. And so in the end, naturally, like their job evolved out, didn't it? Or they had to become an artisan of that, so that became valuable in a different way. And I think with developing, it's become the same thing, isn't it? Because it's all about you make something, it has an end result, and there's not particularly there's no sort of like emotion in like weddings, is there, or kind of that human quality to something. It's cold hard code, as long as it gets the same result, you care less about the human behind it, which sounds really kind of heartless to say, but I think like in some ways even with like image generation and the amount of ads and things like that now which you're seeing are generated by AI, I still think particularly what we do in weddings, and maybe I think it's because that's my job, is that like people value that kind of human approach, don't they? That nurture of kind of actual things. But when it comes to code, it's not. It's all purely about end result, isn't it?
Does it work? Doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Whereas with what we do is obviously more emotional based.
Yeah, and those
more
people are going to have to
opinion-based,
move on to find the next thing, or find a way that they can harness that AI to help, or whatever and stuff. So I think it's not necessarily that. I think they've probably got a right to be scared, but at the moment we're riding the wave of that evolution, and it's not quite crested yet or landed to know kind of what the wash up of it's going to be.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So I wanted to end it with going through a couple of our favorite apps. So we're going to pick 3 apps each that we use sort of every day for our business or pieces of software, and just to bring it back to what genuinely that we use every day and really helps us run our businesses the way we do. So I'll start with WhatsApp Business. I've spoken about it on the pod before, so I won't go too much into it. But there's obviously an app called WhatsApp, and there's a separate one called WhatsApp Business. And I absolutely refuse to add my couples as contacts on my phone because I do not want to clog up my phone. It is my personal phone. I use it for my friends and my family as well. So I like to have my couples in a separate app on the chat. And also hate Instagram chat as well, because when you tag people and whatever, the message gets buried. Is the most clunky thing.
I agree.
So WhatsApp
I hate that. Like you say, I can't believe they still haven't separated that out between like mentions and messages on Instagram. It just drives me mad.
Yeah. It blows the mind, doesn't it? But people still insist on messaging on Instagram. But it's a case of, all my couples are now in WhatsApp Business. When I send one out, I know where it's going. So that for me has been great in terms of getting that sort of personal touch of the couples without having to break that work-life balance of like your digital life in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the first one for me, which I know you talked about, obviously moving away from it and using your own, is Studio Ninja. I think I ran my business from when I started in 2014, 2015, all the way through until the pandemic in 2020, literally off an Excel document and emails, and to finally move to a CRM and have that level of organisation, automation, and stuff like that. Genuinely, I would not know how I got through those catch-up years, or even now, day to day, running my business without feeling like I've got some sort of assistant that does a bunch of admin for me. And again, I'm sure there's better ones out there. There's things that I still don't like about Studio Ninja that I wish they would include, which is some of the reason that you left and built your own. But I still think that whatever your choice of CRM is, and Studio Ninja's it for me, that to have something like that, which really takes away a majority of the admin, which is another task in this job that I really don't enjoy, has made that stuff a lot easier for me.
Yeah, having a CRM, definitely. When people don't have a CRM, I'm like, how are you running your business? Like, and they're like, oh, well, I make a note of when it's someone's wedding is 6 weeks away, and then I make sure to email them, and I'm like, how my brain would not cope. So.
An app I use that I use more and more, relying on it more and more, is an app called Poke. Again, shout out to Mr. AI, Aaron Kenny, and it's basically like the best way I can describe it is like an AI assistant that's kind of it's more like active and proactive with your day-to-day life. So the way it works is you can kind of connect it to iMessage or WhatsApp, and initially it works by connecting to your email account, and it has a really cool onboarding process where it basically trawls through your emails. Again, obviously, if you're happy with this, like, from a privacy aspect, obviously, trawls through your emails, and it basically kind of like just takes the mick out of you for like some sort of email. Like, I think when I did an onboarding process, it started like taking the mick out of me for, I bought like a duck costume off Amazon for my daughter because she had something at school, and he kept asking me, so why have you bought this duck costume? And so it has a really cool onboarding process where it kind of tries to get to know you, and then you have to basically, at least when I did, I think it's still the case, you have to kind of negotiate with it the price that you want to pay to use it. So I think there's some people paying more than others. So I pay basically, I think, £4.50 a month to use it. There's probably people paying a lot more than that. But it kind of asks you, like, well, what do you think, all these things that I can do for you, what do you think that's worth? Anyway, so that's the onboarding. But essentially, you can kind of connect it to your email. It's like ChatGPT or Claude. You can connect it to your email, connect it to your calendar, and it's got more and more hooks that you can kind of connect it to, and you kind of create your own hooks as well. But essentially, it's just like having an assistant that you can message at all times and have it do things for you. So because it connects to your email, I don't have email notifications on now, and basically, so when you get all your spam and naff email, basically, if anything important comes through, it comes through as a message from Poke, and it tells me what it is, it gives me a bit of a summary, and I can then have it draft a reply. because it's connected to your email. I've never used anything that gets my tone of voice as accurate as this does, because it literally is like it's basing everything on your email history. So when I get to draft an email, the tone of voice is like spot on, and then it'll draft it and it'll say like, is this okay to send? I'm like, yep, send that. And you can then obviously give it screenshots. I'll often drop in screenshots of like a chat I've got with someone about something we're trying to arrange. I'm like, can you create a calendar entry for this and add it to my family calendar? And it's like, yep, on it, and it'll do it for me. And then like it blew my mind yesterday, and I'm just literally looking at it now. So my accountant has been chasing me for a little while for some sort of code for company's house that he's had to some sort of yearly thing basically, and it sends me like a code that I have to give to him. And he's chasing me again yesterday, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, like how does this code come through? Is it via email? Like, you know, is it an email that I need to look out for? Because I tried searching for it, couldn't find it. Send that email back to him, and then like a few minutes later I had a message from Poke, and I'll read it out, and it said, found that company's house code Joseph was asking for, and then the code. Want me to draft a reply to him with it? And I was like, what? So I didn't even ask him to do it. I didn't even ask it to do it. Didn't even ask it to do that. It proactively went and found the code, and then it was like, want me to draft a reply? I was like, yeah, thanks. And it drafted a reply.
That's
and sent the code
that
off.
Is
so
scary and amazing.
There's loads of little things like that where, because it knows your calendar, I can ask it things about weddings I've got coming up, or it will tell me like, oh, such and such has just booked a consultation, but heads up, this clashes with this, or heads up, you've got this event, you know, 30 minutes after it, so you might want to look to rearrange it. So it's basically like, the best way I can describe it is like having like a personal assistant that's always active and proactive and doing things. It's just awesome. Cool. Highly recommend that. Cool. And like I say, it doesn't cost a lot of money. You can obviously negotiate with it, but you know, FYI, I'm paying like £4.50 a month for it, so you can get it. You can get it quite low.
Negotiate hard with them. Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting, because I still find, even again, the thing I've said with my CRM, a lot of the stuff that I give out and then get back, because they're automated emails, I still get, and we were saying this the other day, you get a lot of sometimes couples that are too keen, and even though that my questionnaires for final one set to go out 6 weeks before, they drop into my inbox 8 or 9 weeks before going, oh, should we catch up soon? And I end up writing the same email back to them going, don't worry, I've already got an email scheduled to you at 6 weeks. And if I had something that could trawl my inbox, and again, it would know roughly how I voiced that reply back, and then would have the ability to send that a personalised version of that back to this couple and stuff.
Or the dietary requirements email.
Yeah, and again, like that sort of stuff. But you can't just automatically send it. You need to kind of be prompted. Yeah. But the fact that you would almost have something in the arsenal, or someone that could write that email for you, because it's that'd be
that sounds really good. Sounds really
cool. I'm going to make a note of that for sure.
Yeah, so my second app, which is similar to something that you mentioned earlier, is called Sun Tracker. And that is like augmented reality app on the iPhone. You sort of point it at the sky. It will tell you where the sun's going, what time it's going to be where. So you can just sort of go out to the gardens of a venue and point it at the sky and see where the sun's going to be setting. So then you can kind of get an idea of, okay, well, Google told me the sunset was this time, but it looks like it's going behind this tree about an hour earlier. So if we want to get the couple out, it's going to have to be an hour earlier than planned. And that is completely free. And it's been really good. And the couple was always really impressed by it. I'm like, exactly this time, the sun's going behind the tree. I think that's like, I use it every single wedding. And it was only when I was thinking about these apps that we sort of use all the time that I was like, actually, I do rely on that quite a bit.
Yeah. I think again as well, if you're going to new venues all the time, you don't know those things, do you? Obviously the sun moves as well at different times of year, so it's really handy. I've been caught out by that many times where you think, it's all right, and then you factor in that the venue's in a valley, and then like you're going to lose the sun a lot earlier. But the second one for me, and I don't want to talk too much about it because in the next episode that you'll hear in a couple of weeks' time, we talk all about the launch of PickTime 2.0 then. But for me, I think that's the next thing, obviously, after having my CRM to kind of keep my admin in track, is having PickTime as not only my delivery service, I use it, obviously, I have the unlimited package, so every wedding that I've shot since I took it on, it obviously stays on there as like an online backup as well. And then obviously manages all my after sales and print sales and stuff like that for me as well. So out of all of the apps that I pay out for, it's probably the one which gets me the most money back without doing a lot for it, obviously, because it manages the automation really for those after sales. And again, I think it's really easy to use. It's allowed me to cancel a couple of other subscriptions that I used to have for making slideshows and things like that, to do it all under one roof. It's just a really handy kind of all-in-one delivery system, and a good-looking one as well.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Helps.
Yeah. Steve?
Yeah, no, awesome. So yeah, I think the other one that more of a recent one, but now I've started using it, I feel like I can't be about it, is an app called Whisper Flow, and it is essentially like a dictation app, but it's like so much, it's just so accurate and amazing. It works with like Mac and iPhone. So specifically, I started using it because I have a relatively newborn child. She's 12 weeks, 13 weeks old.
Oh,
I forget. Around that mark. Thank you. And there was definitely times when I was doing stuff on Prelude. I had her in one arm, and I'd be like kind of cuddling her and stuff, and I'd be like, this sounds like a horrible parent, but obviously, as being self-employed, sometimes you just got to get stuff done. I've been doing stuff on my laptop or working on Prelude or whatever, like typing with one hand and stuff, and it would take forever. So yeah, Whisper Flow is basically where I can just press a hotkey on the Mac and I can just speak. It kind of transcribes all of that, but again, it's like so much better than you expect it to be. Like it adds bullet points, and if you make mistakes, it kind of corrects them automatically. So yeah, it's just when I'm now using Claude or something like that, more often than not, rather than typing to it, I'm just using Whisper Flow to speak to it. So it speeds up that process like tenfold.
I've been thinking about Whisper Flow for a little while now, but have you ever used Super Whisper?
No, I've heard of it.
So Whisper Flow is like subscription, isn't it? And because I'm so anti-subscription at the moment, I went straight on to see what the alternatives were. And Super Whisper, they have they do have a subscription, but have a lifetime license to it as well. And it seems pretty similar. Yeah. But having not used both, I can't really tell if Whisper Flow is any better. But I do like some of the notes for this pod. I've just sat back and just dictated them out rather than having to write out a whole thing for the pod. So
that'd be really handy for me, because I find that the normal transcription stuff on like Google Sheets or even on here is
rubbish,
an absolute wild ride with the speed that I talk at, and then the way that I kind of move as well. It almost just doesn't like me. So if I could find something that could keep up with the speed that I talk at and really kind of make out those mistakes where I stumble on words, that would be really handy.
There's a few, like you mentioned there, Chris. There's a few. So yeah, I think Whisper Flow is probably the more popular one that I know of. But there's definitely like cheaper and or free version. I can't remember how much Whisper Flow is. It's not a huge amount of money, but like you say, there's definitely ones out there that will be way more cheaper and better. So.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. And I know we've got the same as number 3, Steve, which was we've been talking about for the whole pod pretty much. So I'll go straight into it. Claude. Claude is the first thing I open on my Mac when I open it in the morning, and probably the last thing that I close when I turn it down, because it pretty much runs all of the admin stuff that I do. It helps build my CRM. It compresses images down for me. It writes HTML that I can paste into my website. It is the sort of do it all. Is my version of like the personal assistant at the moment. And to have that takes so much headspace away, and also time away from going on to other apps and doing these things. So yeah, for me, Claude, for that reason, is my number 3, because it is used for me every single day at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the last one that I've got as well is something I've used for a long time, and it's saved me a lot. And particularly now that hard drives are getting much more expensive, is JPEG Mini. Again, that's a one-off payment rather than a subscription. And the fact that you can shrink a full gallery for me by sometimes up to 40%. Is wild. That when you're trying to archive stuff and keep it, the fact that I can save that much storage space and buy hard drives a lot less often, but with no loss of quality to any of my images at all. Like I've seen some of my stuff get printed pretty big, which I know for a fact has been exported out of Lightroom with JPEG Mini slapped on it. It goes to show that you don't need to keep those really huge files, particularly when you're just archiving JPEGs just for it. And also, I think it's a really silly thing, is the fact that a lot of apps you have to open the folder and then select all the images and drag them into the app. The fact that with JPEG Mini you can just dump a folder into and it automatically knows what's in the folder and all of the subfolders, and will just shrink everything in all of them rather than have to do it individually, is a really, really handy thing.
Yeah, and again, that's money saving at the moment, isn't it? Because of the storage prices and everything.
Definitely.
So,
I literally just bought like 2 8-terabyte hard drives for the kind of year ahead, just to back up all the weddings, and just like it hurt.
It's crazy,
I check, cause I know some people I know recycle maybe old drives and stuff, but I'm like they used to be cheap enough that it was every year I just buy a fresh set. And I still continue to do that for the time being. But yeah, I checked I ordered the same 2 hard drives and checked the Amazon history, and they'd gone up quite a bit. And I was like, God, that's
it's almost like 1.5 times, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
But again, again, here I am talking about an app that I made of AI.
Yeah,
So I'm like, oh, what's the problem? Like, so I'll have to take it, I guess. But yeah, it all comes as no surprise, like you say, Chris, that I also would pick Claude. I started using it primarily to kind of create like Prelude and film posts, but yeah, more and more using it for like business stuff. And yeah, I think I'm scratching the surface of it. There's got so many more features that I don't use, where it can kind of like you can give it access to folders on your computer and it can kind of work within those. It's got something called a dispatch mode, where you can kind of you can connect it to the Claude app on your phone. You can kind of run tasks from your phone that will kind of run back on your computer and stuff like that. But just like business, like emails, writing, checking, working within the calendar. Like I used it recently. I think I had someone that was just as a little example, I had someone was after asked me about second shooting basically, and wanted to know. I said, I've actually got like so many like key Saturdays still available over the summer, like the way my weddings have fallen. I've got like so many like really, well, I would say good dates still available that I can second shoot for. So I was like, but so basically I said to Claude, I was like, you just kind of create a list of dates that I'm unavailable for over the summer based on weddings that I've got, pulling that information from my calendar. Like did it like super quick. Then I kind of went back to that person and said, like, here's the dates I can't do, everything else I'm currently free. Like super simple, but just like having that connection with the calendar was great. And then like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have it, do a cash flow forecasts for the year ahead by feeding it like all this data and stuff, which, wouldn't have been possible like 12, 18, 24 months ago. So it's just completely changed the way
it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah,
really,
just the way I think about approaching like something that I need to do, whereas before it would have been like a half an hour Google search to maybe find a service or app or something like that, whereas like now I'm just like, hey Claude, can you do this? And more often than not I'll be like, yeah, I can do that, and then that's that.
Yeah.
Also, we're all busy, aren't we, as well? So anything, which again, particularly when a lot of us, like, I know you've got a business partner, Steve, but are still running, like to have two people running the whole business when there's loads of layers to it, anything which can save you those little bits of time are just really, really valuable. So,
you had an honourable mention as well.
And the last one, to me, it's a really easy one, but it's something that I use loads, is the Apple Notes app. Like, we use it for this pod, so the fact that you can be at your home, like a few miles from here, and we can pull our notes and it appears in live time. I use it at the moment, again, until I get my Prelude subscription, that I dump all the information from my questionnaires into my Apple Notes app, so I've got them for the days, and I can kind of, whether I'm on my iPad, my laptop, my phone, it all just kind of pulls everything from everywhere, and that kind of that level of kind of synchronicity is just really, really handy.
Yeah, I have hundreds of notes on Apple Notes, and it has been very, very handy. So I do agree with that. So yeah. Cool. So we always finish our podcasts with guests with the two same questions, Steve. So the first question for you is, when you're at weddings, what is something that photographers can do to make your life easier?
Probably, it sounds lame, but like just kind of communication, just checking in. Like it's generally my experience with photographers is great. Like I like to think that I'm a good person, good supplier to work with. So just checking in and like making sure that we're on the same page and as the day goes on, I guess. It's a quite basic one, but I can't think of anything more specific. So.
No, it's true, and I kind of like I do agree that that's like the main thing, isn't it, in terms of working as a team anyway, is communication. But often photographers are the first point of contact for a lot of people. I worked at a wedding a few weeks ago where the master of ceremonies would only talk to the photographer, and I had to keep going over to the photographer and being like, so what did he say? Or what did she say? And it was like I just felt like a right tit, just keep going up and be like, so what's actually happening then? But luckily the photographers are absolutely lovely and were letting me know. But that happened 2 days in a row for one weekend, and I was just like, by the end of it I was like, this is ridiculous, why is this still happening? But generally that's why the communication from photographers is so important, because generally they're probably the first point of contact for maybe older school suppliers, but also just people who prefer, just coordinators or whatever, they might go to the photographer first. So,
I think that's fair. It still baffles me that that's the case, and I've had to play go-between quite a few times between photo and video and
I'm glad
content
that
and stuff.
you've
But I
noticed
still
it as
find it.
well.
I still find it mad that's the case. I find it even worse when I've had it in the past where I've been a second shooter for a female photographer, and the venues have always come to me because they just assume that I'm the guy, so I must be the lead. That I find nuts.
That's crazy. It's something we don't have to deal with a lot.
But I find that absolutely wild. And again, I guess the second question that we always ask, which is the one which is my favourite question, is that me and Chris always record 2 episodes of this podcast in a day, and we go to the Tesco's at the end of my road for a meal deal in between. So if you were going to go for a meal deal, Chris, Steve, with us, what would your pick be of more or less like a main and then a snack and then a drink?
So probably a main will be like some sort of like New York like deli sandwich where it's like mixed
going for the
meats
premium
and
meal deal,
pickles and always premium. I like my premium because you more often than not like it's that they're the ones, and obviously marketing they're designed to appeal, like they make them sound extra good. But if not that, like a nice ham and cheese is always a favourite. But usually some sort of like meat based mustardy pickle thing that's probably it's going to stink out an entire room once I open it. And then maybe some sweet chili kind of crisps or something. Some nice artisan crisps like kettle chips or something. Again, I do like a sandwich, but I've got like a thing where like I'm not a huge fan when you have a sandwich it's like straight out of the fridge, it's like cold.
Cold bread is not the one.
I almost feel like maybe I need to get a slightly nicer sandwich to make myself feel a bit better that I need to freeze it like it's cold, but I don't know.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I guess the last thing as well is tell people where they can find Prelude, they can find the Mike Mags, find you, and all of that sort of stuff. And do that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm on Instagram, not as active as I probably should be, but I'm on Instagram Blue Ridge Weddings, at Blue Ridge Weddings, and then Mike Mag's there. It's at mikemag.store, and then Prelude is prelude.day, both on web and Instagram. And I think Mike Mag's the same. I think there's Mike Mag's store on Instagram.
And again, obviously, Prelude is on the Apple Store, the App Store, and stuff like that as well, yeah?
It is, yeah. So if you search Prelude for weddings, or it should hopefully, I've noticed more and more, it should autofill. So if you start typing Prelude, it should come up with Prelude for weddings, hopefully.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Good stuff.
Well, as one of our camera runs out of battery, our iPad's crashed, and we're coming to the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining us, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
it's been really cool to have a chat
with you. Thank you for having
you.
me. It's been awesome. I've loved it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you letting me take a look at Mike Mag and Prelude and that kind of thing. The trust that you put in me to give that feedback has been really nice, and I enjoy doing that kind of stuff because it's like a little fresh peek into.
Yeah, I appreciate it as well, because that's it. Like it's same with Mike Mag in the run up to launching it. I felt like I had not a lot of weddings myself to test, so I was kind of leaning on other people to say, like, if you've got weddings coming up, if you can test it for me, I've not got a lot to test it with, so it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good stuff. Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you.
So everyone else,
guys.
hope you enjoyed that episode. It's been a bit technical, but hopefully you've learned something if you didn't know a lot about AI.
So it's been good.
Yeah. And it's worth looking into these things. And if you've got any questions for us or for Steve, then just let us know, or just drop us a message and we can pass it on. So other than that, thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you in the next one.